Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of Ace Attorney, and today we're going to continue from where we left off, so we're going to continue with Gina's trial. So let's do this here. Trial Part 2, The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. So this trial is getting pretty crazy now. Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand. Now these guys are going to lie so badly. I presume you heard the defense's counsel's summation examination. Oh, yeah, Governor. I did, Gov. I did. Mr. Skulkin. Core blimey. This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave us the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windibanks. Well, it was bedlam soon as, weren't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out me Lucy lockets. However, that was a lie. You brothers. Core blimey. On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter. They did. We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out? They did. You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time you will tell the truth. Oh, I like the judge for this. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentleman, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. A thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov, we hear you. We'll blab, we'll squeak, we'll peach. Illegal entry, the whole truth. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot, see, made us both jump and all that stuff went flying. Lummy, it didn't give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter'd come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it and scarpered straight into I'm in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never had a chance, did we? Yeah, these guys are lying so badly. So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Windiback's countertop on the night in question. You can see the judge is pissed. Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash. That's right. It's more like we tidied up, yeah. You broke in and you tidied up. Look at Van ZX. Even he's like, oh my god. Sorry. By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess. The way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all. We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't make us sound a bit more cutthroat. It can't be just a coincidence that these men showed up at Windibanks that night. No, it's not a coincidence. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. There's something they're not telling us here. Okay, let's press this. If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place? Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. Well said, Ringo, me old China. We only land ourselves in even more trouble. And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done. Landed yourselves in even more trouble. Ah, well, that's rotten luck. Says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter? We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied the place up. I think even Van ZX isn't buying this. Sorry. So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much you knocked all those things off the counter? Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah, the bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, alright, blimey me, dead granny would have woken up at that bank. Big bruv ears screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell over on the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette, what knocked over a picture frame, what knocked them scales on the floor. You've really mastered working quietly then. What a racket. Me granny would have been scared back into her grave at a clatter like that. So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise. And then some, I mean, it was quiet as a mouse, and then all of a sudden, bam. Okay, Inspector has something here to say.
Excuse me.
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. No, something to add about their testimony. You seem to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something? It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only... Well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details. How about you just tell us what's on your mind? As you know, we brought these fellas into the yard for questioning last night, and the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Did it. So, this is kind of realistic right now in Ace Attorney, because when somebody's telling the truth, oftentimes it'll be the exact same thing each time. But when somebody's lying about what happened, there'll be small differences because they'll try to remember. And so when you know something is the truth, you remember it exactly like it happened. But when you're lying about something and trying to make it up, you don't always keep that story exactly the same. And so that's actually a bit realistic. That happens. You know, when the police question somebody about what happened and the person's lying, they'll give one statement and then they'll question it maybe a few days later and the statement will change a little bit. And so you can tell at that point that there's something they're not telling you. You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot. Might have, guy, might have. Does ring a bell now you mention it. So he heard the victim shout. Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. I can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, eh, fellas? If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has, proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them. Yeah, good job, Judge. Easy, easy. We'll get it right this time. That's it, yep. It's all coming back to me now. Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs. Heh. Right you are, Gov. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Gimme that gun."
Hold it!
So, in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously. We did, Gov, we did. Although, I suppose, if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all. Wavering voice. If you don't want to get shot, gimme that gun. Bam. Kind of thing. A career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from, could you tell? Of course we could. From the other side of that door behind the counter it was. From the storeroom where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Windibank? On me granny's life, course it was. Now, you know, from these guys' testimony, we know it was the first time that they were in Windibank's pawnbrokery, apparently. So how would they know what Mr. Windibank sounded like? You know, that's what I would ask them. I would ask them, how do you know what Mr. Windibank sounds like? On his granny's life, because it, of course it was. So, that would mean that you both knew Mr. Windibank and the sound of his voice. Oh my god, look at that. He just said it. Ryu just said exactly what I was thinking. Oh my god, what are the chances of that, right, guys? He literally just said what I was thinking of. They both knew, Mr. Windibank because of his voice. Eh? So that would mean what? What, Nash, what? Any ideas? Yes, Counsel. Indeed it would. Nah. We didn't know the geezer. Well, how did you know that it was Mr. Windibank who said that? Oh, I'm supposed to deny it when that bloke in all the fancy cloppers giving us the evil eye? If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true. On me granny's life it is. Well, I don't want to be his granny. On his granny's life it must be. It's a good job his granny's dead. Oh, his granny is dead. To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor. You make it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget, we tidied up after like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it, the bloke what owned the place was holding a gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl.
Hold it!
You're saying that Mr. Windibank had a gun in his hands. Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other must have got pretty heated. But they previously said they didn't see anything in the I mean, just before he shouted, we heard the geezer say, if you don't want to get shot. Didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say. Mr. Windibank was known to keep a revolver in his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course. Good grief. Extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided. Well, certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. Only the person was gonna shoot beat I'm to it. Cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he'd squeezed the trigger instead of wasting time shouting, "Give me that gun." And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot. It was more or less at the same time, Gov. Give me that gun. Kind of thing. Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed. Then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck. Before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up. There's a reason they tidied the place up. Lummy, it didn't give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter'd come out the door and get us next.
Hold it!
So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door then? Not on your life. It went definitely quiet after that, it did. Put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, weren't it? No way that was opening. Yes, of course, it was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe. It was, Gov, it was, from the inside. Right, so we had no way of knowing, what was going on in there, did we? Unless there was some other way to get a view of inside the storeroom, like through the keyhole, or a spy hole, perhaps. Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We're still cutting our teeth in this game, see, but one day we'll really cut the mustard. Please cut it out. But as we know, behind that door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately, Gina was in there unconscious with the gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom? That's right, Gov. That's right. Couldn't have, even if we wanted to. We stuck everything back where we found it, and scarpered straight into I'm in the black.
Hold it!
Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Oh, yeah, we was a bit hasty there. We was, Nas, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up. If you're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand. Good advice, Iris. And good advice he's saying too, Miss Good Advice. Truth be told, me mind went totally blank. Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand. You tell him, Iris. Mental note made, miss. After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or so they clapped the Darbys on us like winking. And after we've been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct? Well, yeah. But listen, that proves it, done it. Eh? We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see, we never had a chance, did we?
Hold it!
And why should we believe that? Eh, what? Well, because it's true, innit? The place was totally empty when we went in. At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbroker, Mr. Windibank. Correct? You've got it, mister. Down to a T. So the Skulkin brothers never actually encountered Mr. Windibank. Is that really true, I wonder? That's it. That's the full extent of their testimony. What is it, Runo? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired. Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'd probably laugh. But I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something important. It is nothing more than a feeling, though. I have no proof to support it. Well, feelings can be very logical at times. Sorry? People's expressions, the movement of their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that in and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you describe. You've concluded that there's something suspicious about this testimony without knowing why, that's all. I think you should trust your instincts. Iris, thank you. Sometimes, I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. Okay, now, look, here's my theory. I don't know if these guys killed Mr. Windibank, but they're lying about something. I don't think these guys are smart enough to pull off, like, a crime like that, like, you know, trapping Gina in there and just, putting the gun in her hand, somehow locking the door from the other side. Let's examine some of our... You have to pop your 2 prints in here to start with, you see? And then, when you look through the eyepieces, you can see the image in 3 dimensions. The important thing to get right is the position of the 2 prints. I don't know who came up with the idea of a stereoscope, but it's really quite fascinating. Oh, look at that. It's totally changed shape, just from one little button press. Well, that is what the button's for, Runo. You're just like Hurley, you boys love pressing buttons, don't you? Especially if you don't know what they do. Us boys, says the 10-year-old girl. Anyway, now you can see that it really is a stereoscope, can't you? You have to pop your 2 prints in here to start with, you see? And then when you look through the eyepieces, you can see the image in 3 dimensions. The important thing is to get right the position of the 2 prints. I don't know who came up with the idea, but it's quite fascinating. Okay. It's something with these pictures. How do I... Okay, but how do I, is there a way for me to put the 2 pictures in here, though? That's the question. How would I go about doing that? Wait a second. I mean, there is some kind of paint there. What could it be that I'm missing here? Everything moved over for a little bit. Wait a second. Look at the door, guys. Look at this. Here. You see it? You see what I'm seeing? Look. The blind's at 1 a.m. Gina's in the store with the gun. And then the... Look at that. The thing is exposed. Somebody moved the blind over. Let's see if this works here.
Objection.
Ah, great. It's not gonna work here. Yeah. So there's ammunition still loaded in 5 of this revolver cylinders, yes. which tells us that only a single shot has been fired from it. Exactly. The bullet that hit Hurley, in fact, isn't it? Yes, it happened almost as soon as we walked in through Windibank's door. I'll make those brothers pay. Okay, we saw this here before. This is Mr. Windibank's gun. Mr. Windibank always used to keep this gun hand on the shop counter. Yes, but only ever with a single bullet loaded, I understand. That's right, to keep all the pawned articles that were in his care safe. But his one bullet was fired that night and the poor man lost his life. Wait a second. How could I have not seen this? Oh my god, I guess it's just because I'm tired. The bloke who owned the place was holding a gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl. How would you know that he's holding the gun? No, this is an inconsistency. Look at the picture. We see Gina with the gun here. No. This. Gina had the gun. You're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. He has, Nash. He has, no question. And yet the photographic evidence from the time of the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not in the possession of a firearm of any description.
Objection!
You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromises the position of the accused even more? Furthermore, the defense has failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken a suitably short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronologically is severely lacking, counsel. Yeah, that's right. Too right, Nash, too right. The old geezer could have been about to turn the tables on the girl, eh? Hardly likely. No, I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Continue with the cross-examination, counsel. And heed my earlier warning, witnesses. Damn, these brothers are annoying me. So that was we showed evidence there for something, There's gotta be something that I'm missing in this testimony. We'll skip this because we've seen this before. These brothers aren't telling the truth. There's something else off about this. I don't know if this photograph is gonna be enough, but they say just before the gunshot we heard a voice yelling, "Give me that gun." But Mr. Windibank got shot in the back. Autopsy, single bullet wound in upper half of victim's back. No other visible signs of trauma. Instant death from posterior bullet to the heart. The bullet entered the body from the back on a gently rising diagonal trajectory. His back is turned. How would he say, "Give me that gun," if his back is turned? Let's see if this works.
Objection!
No, it's not. Damn. This part's hard to figure out right now. Damn, I still got 3 chances left. bloke who owned the place was holding a gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl. We showed this before, though. You're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun when we did this before. Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. He has, Nash. He has, no question. And yet the photographic evidence from the time of the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not in possession of a firearm of any description.
Objection.
You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromised the position of the accused even more? The defense failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken suitably a short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronologically is severely lacking, counsel. Yeah, that's right. Too right, Nash, too right. The old geezer could have been about to turn the tables on the girl, eh? Hardly likely. No, I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Ugh. Man, these brothers are really starting to annoy me.
Objection.
So you're saying... So I guess the photograph worked, that on the night in question the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun, is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. He has, Nash, he has, no question. And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not holding a firearm of any description. Okay, we got it now. I've been struggling on that part for so long. Hey, you what? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right.
Objection.
There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Windibank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as a murder weapon, but it was found in the accused hand. Yeah, that Molt Tooler used the victim's own gun to finish him off. These guys are lying through their teeth, kind of thing. Stay exactly where you are, right there. Eh? If the crime had taken place as you so colorfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out. Goodness, are you sure, counsel? Yeah, because he was shot in the back. You intrigue me, my learned friend, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where is the proof that the demonstration, this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments? The autopsy report, it would be, I believe. Let's see. He got shot in the back. Single bullet wound upper half of victim's back. No other visible signs of trauma. And they're saying, give me that gun, but then why would his back be turned? The thing just makes no sense. Let's see. Please be the autopsy report. According to their testimony, the witnesses claimed to have heard a shout of, give me the gun, followed by the gunshot. Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe. Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. Ah. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. Skulkin. We got it. The heroic music starts playing, means we're on the right track. But, it's the God's honest truth. It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand, and we saw it with our own bleeding eyes. You didn't say that before. Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Windibank holding a gun. Some like that might have slipped out. Oh, look, even Van Ziex is pissed now. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question, they actually saw with their own eyes the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person. Nash, Order. Witnesses, explain yourselves at once. The judge is pissed. Well, the thing is, it weren't supposed to, It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you. Oh man, they are so done. Literally, Van Ziex just warned them before, and now oh man, that is... Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of the original testimony with renewed lies? Ever so sorry, Governor. Truth is, see, we, Cut it out, Nash, cut it out. If we blab now, you know what it'll do to us. He? Who are they talking about? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you. Bruv, come on. The game's up. But we all have our guts for garters. In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out. On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face-to-face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place. Well... Do we have to? Yes, you do. You're in a court of law. On pain of death. Oh. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Encounter with the victim. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we had it. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through the door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what append, I swear. But they mentioned somebody else. Somebody else is involved. So now you're telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you're in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop. Well, yeah. Sorry. Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably. But honest, Governor, this time. This time, Nash, this time. We ain't got nothing more to hide. Very well. Counsel for the defense. You may proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. Encounter with the victim. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sign of relief when the geezer showed his mug.
Hold it!
What does that mean, he showed his mug? Does it mean he showed his face? When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Windibank. Who else, sorry? I mean, that's right. We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously, but we never thought no one was gonna come out of the back room like that. The back room being the pawnbrokery storeroom. Yeah, that must be where he popped up from, only place he could have been. So it seemed the victim was already in the storeroom when these brothers entered the premises. Which means Ginny must have been in there at that point as well. But that doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Windibank into the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived? That's a really good point there. Unless she wasn't threatening him. Oh, I don't know. Something's not right here. Did you see the accused at that time? What? That mall tooler? Couldn't tell ya. No way, Cobber. We had bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. So he was talking about their gun.
Hold it!
You mentioned that Mr. Windibank shouted those words in your previous testimony, too. However, you claimed that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door, but he was really yelling at them. Oh, here, did we? But the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he? Yep. Well, yeah. Was the victim Mr. Windibank, wielding a gun at the time? Was he ever, blimey lummy, a great ugly barrel he had, pointed straight at me frontispiece? So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Windibank with the gun at the time, is that right? It is, Gov, it is, spot on. Then all of a sudden, he came at us, he did. It was bedlam, I didn't know who was going for who. You were clearly all going for each other. Like Nash said, we fought, we at it, I mean. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox, he chucked me over the counter. So that's why everything got messed up on the counter, because he threw them over the counter.
Hold it!
Yes, I noted that you mentioned the counter in your previous testimony, too. Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette. What knocked over a picture frame, what knocked them scales on the floor. So in fact, it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock those things off the counter. Well, Big Bruv ear went flying over that counter like a gunshot, I can tell you. Then the old geezer pinned He did, Nash, he did. If you hadn't been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a bloomin' pancake in seconds. At that time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station via a secret cable from the pawnbrokery. There's a button under the counter used to activate it, which was presumably pressed by the victim. That's right. When the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police, didn't they? Poor Mr. Windibank. He did everything he could to protect his shop. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through the door into the back room.
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Windibank? No, never. I was just, you know. Why did you pull out the gun, then? Looking out for me, bruv, weren't I? He was being flattened, don't forget. Now, this is nonsense. This is a nonsense argument here. He's claiming he pulled out the gun in self-defense. But you broke into his shop in the middle of the night. That's not a claim for self-defense. He threw your brother over the counter, but that was because you broke into his shop, so pulling out a gun for self-defense when you're breaking and entering in the first place, that's not a viable defense. By a man whose shop was being oh my god, look. He just said what I was just thinking again. By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes. And then the man fled into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him, is that it? Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through that door and shut, himself in. There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true. I wonder why Mr. Windibank ran away into the storeroom. What? Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him with a gun. Ah, yes, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Windibank's gun to threaten him and force him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Windibank's hand again? I have no idea, but that is strange, isn't it? It makes no sense. This little inconsistency could be significant. I should make a mental note of it. Look, the point is, me and me bruv ear. That's right, Nash, that's right. Me and me bruv ear. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear.
Hold it!
You say you had nothing to do, with it. Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov. Nothing. That old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was, from the inside. We knew it was, because we tried to open it. But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Wouldn't budge an inch. So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim, the accused Miss Gina Lestrade. Ugh. It would indeed appear so. What say you to that, counsel? I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could possibly have shot Mr. Windibank? There could have been. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. What? What's that look for? For the moment you admitted that you'd encountered the victim face to face that night. The course of this trial changed completely. It did. What is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is, who could have shot Mr. Windibank? And it is the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all. You have my attention. In that case, let us return to the plan of the premises. They could have shot him through the hole in the door. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts. So pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man there could be? Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect to the two conundrums. 2, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe. Indeed, namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? Furthermore, where was the victim at the time? Understood, my lord. Are you alright, Runo? I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the question posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun. It would be right here. That's what I think, through the hole in the door. In this time period, revolvers were the common gun that people would carry around. You know, you didn't really have semi-automatic pistols, so there wouldn't be a casing. So when a revolver fires, the casing is in the cylinder still. It's not ejected until you manually remove it. I think this, please be right.
Take that!
The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time? Here.
Take that!
Let's see if I'm right on this. The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Mr. Windibank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired? So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom. Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony, I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through the door into the back room. If Mr. Windibank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. Ah. It was at that precisely that moment when the victim was fleeing for his life that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom. Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial? Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner, his report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself. It could be the shorter brother. Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety. Ah, of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. That is a possibility. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it still would have entered his body at an upward trajectory. So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Windibank.
Objection.
I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim that the victim was shot as he fled into the room. You also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock? Ah, but that could have been Gina that could have locked the door. What if someone else locked... Wow, I'm really predicting what Ryu is saying right now. Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so? Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from the outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside? Gina. Gina's the only person that could have done it. She was in the room with him.
Take that.
Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection.
That's absurd. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room? No, not deliberately, to get away from them. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck. I'm inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel? The only reason I could think of is she did it to escape from them. Ah, yes. That's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please. But of course, Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it? It does? Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked that door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they? Oh yes, obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Windibank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Windibank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom. Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv. If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Windibank fell onto the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment? Ah, I see where you're going with this. Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer, who had just murdered Mr. Windibank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it, in order to save her own life. But there's one thing that's not explained here. Isn't the gun the gun that was ballistics confirmed? It was Mr. Windibank's gun.
Hold it.
But we ain't the ones who done it. We ain't, Gov, we ain't. You've got to believe us. I mean, come on, we never shoot no one. That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would, because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. There's only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windibank's murder. It's not going good for them now. Where does this leave us? You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket who shot the pawnbroker after all? I should have known it was those three brothers. They look as shady. They're putting in Inspector Gregson in that. That was amazing, Runo. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now. I know, first time ever, and probably the last. Well, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have a verdict of not. Why is he laughing? An admirable effort. I think he's gonna bring up the fact that it was Mr. Windibank's gun. What's this now? He's laughing. You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Ziex? I myself find the defense's argument most persuasive. Oh no, he's gonna be drinking the wine. That means he's got something planned, I dare say. Such chancery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial eastern nation, but such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here. What? The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly credibly cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? He's probably gonna say it was Mr. Windibank's gun. Do you mean to tell me you're unaware of your logic's failing? I say, Lord Van Ziex. Might be an idea to explain this Bali conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground, The fatal flaw in my learned friend's argument is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. By George, count bullets. Oh dear. He noticed then. What everyone's talking about. Counsel. Yes, sir. Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime. Two bullets. Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, on his arrival at the scene. Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet earlier in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar. Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are 2 firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Windibank, and the Skulkin brothers' revolver. Yep, he's going for exactly what I said. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun. Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each. Now then, my learned friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these 2 brothers shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes right before your eyes. Yes, I did. Oh my goodness, I think you'll find that if the single bullet that was fired from the brothers' gun hit Mr. Sholmes, it means Windibank not shot by the same gun stop, only 1 bullet stop. Exactly. Oh great, my controller just got disconnected at the worst possible time. Let me just get the charger. Okay, I'm back, guys. I'm sorry about that. My controller literally got disconnected at the worst moment. Yes, this Nippony street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick with no hope of standing up to scrutiny. Ugh. Order, order, order. What is going on? Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery. Lord Van Ziex. But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can regrettably no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has past riddled with criminal conduct. Well, you know, that's not really proof to condemn them for murder right now. All she did was pickpocket. She never killed or hurt anyone. The truth is the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with lonesome intent. As we can see, beyond doubt in this print, which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. It's that disc. I'll be taking that whatever it is off McGilded's down to the yard. Thank you very much. No, don't. Don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine. I'm sorry, miss. But anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken as evidence now. Yes, that music box disc, McGilded's music box disc. That very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Windibank. The accused attempt to make off with the article, which clearly doesn't belong to her. And with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket in my head, but by brute force and brazen impudence. Good gracious. Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stop if pushed. No crime she would not commit. This court forgets the fact at its peril. I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel, as a grim testament to the defendant's character. Lord Van Ziex, Inspector Gregson, what? Yes, Inspector. We had a meeting yesterday at the yard with the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that the disc wouldn't be used as evidence. What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? I wonder if the foreign secrets are on that disc. Wait a second. Article about government secrets being leaked to foreign agencies. Was McGilded stealing government information? Was that what was on the disc? And was Mason some kind of spy? And he killed him for that? That's what I'm starting to think right now. Because, remember, Inspector Gregson met with Lord Strongheart for some kind of emergency meeting, and it was about the espionage that was going on in Britain. So it looks like McGilded might have been in charge of this, and that Edgar Benedict guy might be some kind of other spy. That's the first time he said anything to Van ZX at all. I'm unaware of any such meeting. But those were the instructions right from the top. The government bigwigs were insistent. Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted. Thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord. Indeed. Bailiff. A metal disc used to play music in mechanical music box. On the reverse side is a note that reads for McGilded. The prosecution has established the accused motive, opportunity, and baseness of character. Well, you didn't really show motive there. There is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions and rest my case. I don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once, for all of 5 minutes. Oh dear. It wasn't even for 5 minutes, Bruno. My lord. Wonder if I might say something at this point. Proceed, Mr. Foreman. Been stumbling about in a bit of a fog up to now. If truth be told, but all of a sudden, the answer is bodily obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. Oh no. Very well. The court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
Oh no.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Oh no. Well, I guess we're going to another summation examination. We have a consensus among the jury, it seems. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. That's my line. I wrote that for Hurley. How dare he use it against us? Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realize. There must be, because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Windibank. That's beyond my doubt. Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination of the day. Mr. Foreman, are you and the other jurors ready? Garradib Squadron is primed and ready for action, sir. Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have now determined the defendant to be guilty. Judicial findings. The jurors' contentions. Once a rogue, always a rogue, I assume. Different breed to us law-abiding citizens. As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted. You don't need a stereoscope to see the truth here. Every which way you look at it, it was that pickpocket. I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief. The accused attempted a theft on the previous day. I can see I'm in for a busy day ahead. I am ballistics expert. I've seen many shootings. There is nothing I do not know about, guns. Well, it's because you're a revolutionary. You're a wanted fugitive from Russia. It would seem there is little remaining room for doubt. Hate to admit, I was rather ballowed over by the argument put forward by the chap in black. But when that fell apart like a house of cards, I saw that I'd jolly well been hoodwinked. Well, no more. The whole courtroom is turning against me. It's not fair. Iris, that prosecutor's being mean. Just because Ginny's done some things she shouldn't have done in the past, that doesn't make her a murderer. Exactly my point. Allow me to savor this fruity vintage while I savor the spectacle of your fruitless debate on the matter. Here's to the truth coming out, eventually. Well, we're gonna shut him down right now. That's enough preamble. Counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Yes, my lord. The defense's rebuttal. Okay.
Hold it!
Just because Miss Lestrade has a history of pickpocketing, she must be guilty of murder? Is that what you're saying? Ah, well. Are all members of the British Army so quick to judge? I beg your pardon? Are you mocking Her Majesty's Armed Forces, the greatest military organization in the world? No, I'm simply illustrating my point. Making assumptions about people because they're a soldier or a pickpocket is wrong and dangerous. Well, yes, might have a point there, I suppose. But let's not forget the girl has already shown she had it in her, from before. She's clearly a criminal sort through and through. Can't deny it. When you say that she's shown she had it in her, are you referring to this? Exactly. Tried to swap, that only a day earlier, Or am I mistaken? Not exactly. Given that I was actually there at the time, it's hard to refute that. I've never actually seen the real thing. I can't wait to have a closer look at it. Oh yes, of course. Mr. Sholmes did use his caramel bars to make a copy of the disc, didn't he? And then ordered every type of music box he could find from across Europe. We still don't know what tune it plays though, do we? It plays some kind of information, but I'd love to see how the original compares to Hurley's copy. McGilded's disc. Could it have a clue somehow? Perhaps we should examine it more in detail. Yeah, let's take a look at that in Oh, Runo, look. This is blood. Yes, you're right. Just a small smear, but definitely blood. Actually, I feel as though I might have noticed that before. Haha, then it's my time to shine again. I thought I'd be waiting forever. Alright, hold still with that disc, Runo. Can we get this done quickly, Iris? In a flash. Let's see, what color is it? Oh, a lovely, bright shade again. Wait, that color. What is it? It's just that green. It's not the first time we've seen that color, is it? And we haven't identified who it is yet. For McGilded. For McGilded. That's the man you defended in court a couple months ago, isn't it, Runo? Yes, or rather mistakenly defended. I wonder what his name is doing on the back of this disc. That's a question I'd love to know the answer to myself. Let's look at that, Was that, Herlock Sholmes's, Herlock Sholmes's blood is the green? That's on the disc, I don't know now, we'll have to find out whose blood that is exactly. As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted.
Hold it!
Isn't the number of bullets that has you convinced? Only 2 bullets were fired, and the 2 guns that fired them, have been examined by the police. When the parlor maid asks me how many are invited for dinner, I always tell her to count the table settings. Well, that's logical, I suppose. Although... Yes? Sometimes after dining, crockery does go missing. One or two guests rather like to find china. Does your employer dine with thieves? So I suppose... If there was another bullet somewhere of which we were unaware, I'd have to reconsider my position. A third bullet somewhere on the scene. Could that be possible? Oh wait, no, I didn't... And I don't imagine the good men of Scotland Yard would have overlooked anything. And he should have received a visit from the police, perhaps. It sounds like a crime scene to me. A third bullet. It would completely turn things around if there was one, wouldn't it? I think there is a third bullet. Do you think we might find one lying around somewhere? We'll come back to her. You don't need a stereoscope to see the truth here. Every which way you look at it, it was that pickpocket. So if I've understood correctly, you need two pictures, a left eye one and a slightly different right eye one. Exactly. Then you can see the scene in 3 dimensions, like this. So if we have 2 bullets, I don't suppose you can see anything useful with them. I think you'll find that no matter how much you squint, the truth of the situation always looks the same here. The only person who could have shot the victim is that girl in the dock. How can you be so sure of that? Think about it. The Skulkin brothers shot the great detective, didn't they? Yes, that's been mentioned once or twice. Well then, surely it's coming into focus now, isn't it? This is a waste of time. I'm not going to change this man's mind anytime soon. I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief. Would you please stop muttering about things that have nothing to do with this trial, sir? The defendant's life is on the line here. Well, the thing is, I couldn't really say that it is nothing to do with this trial, to be honest. Huh? I mean, there's no question that the man was shot, but the bullet had simply vanished from his stomach. It's quite inexplicable, don't you think? Wait a second. I almost don't want to ask, but the surgery you've been muttering about all this time, you were operating on... What was that fellow's name now? Herlick? No, Herlock. No, Hairlock. Herlock Sholmes, by any chance? Yes, good lord. It was that Hairlock fellow. So what is the chances of that? We have Herlock surgeon as a member of the jury. What? You're the surgeon that operated on Mr. Sholmes. That's right. Using that very latest anesthesia techniques, I might add. It was fairly major op, I can tell you. This is crazy. Let me see. The fellow was brought in not long after midnight, if I remember correctly. They said he'd been shot by some criminal or other, so I opened him up like a shot. But the funny thing is, I went over his insides with a fine-tooth comb and couldn't find the bullet anywhere. So I'm afraid I had to throw up my hands and just stitch the fellow up. I hate to state the obvious, but... Yes? Surely that's because the bullet is still at the scene of the shooting. The counsel for the defense is correct. As it clearly shows in this photographic print, the bullet that the Skulkin brothers fired at Mr. Sholmes hit him in the stomach region, then exited the body and lodged in the shop wall where the calendar was hanging by the door, but that doesn't make sense. It would be going, if it hit him in the stomach, it would be lower. It wouldn't be that high near the door. I think you'll find it's really quite simple if you just consider the problem 3-dimensional. Who do you think I am, son? Well, juror number 4 is about the best I can do. A lot of the firearms in this time period were black powder. Pretty much every gun in this time period was black powder. And a lot of black powder guns, they didn't have as much power as the smokeless powder guns, which was developed later on. So it's entirely possible that some guns, depending on how strong they are, the bullet could stay inside the person, but other guns could go right through them and out the other end. As soon as I saw the wound to the man's stomach, I flipped him over. Like a pancake. Are you saying that you checked his back? Of course I did, and there wasn't a trace of injury. No sign that the bullet had left the body at all. Wait, that's strange now. So it got stuck in his body, but there was no traces of the bullet. What? He should have an exit wound at the back. That's the point. The only logical conclusion was that the bullet was still somewhere in the man's innards. Which is exactly why I said about slicing him up. I'm still none the wiser even now. How many times do I have to say it? Can somebody please explain how it happened? Can someone please solve the mystery? It's almost as much of a mystery as how this jury was put together. The accused attempted a theft on the previous day. I can see I'm in for a busy day ahead.
Hold it!
What do you mean, you're in for a busy day? Forget to say stop. Do excuse me, stop. I am a communications officer, stop. A communications officer. Does that have something to do with sending telegrams? Everything from personal messages written by members of the public to the latest news in the capital. I convert all the messages into Morse code and tap it out to the entire world electronically. To the entire world? Thousands of miles of cable under the sea, stop. Worldwide communication network, stop. Information transmitted to and from all corners of globe, stop. Ah, yes. She was getting equally worked up about radio waves or the like before, wasn't she? I specialize in communicating information from government departments and newspaper offices. I see. I'm sure I shall have to wire the newspaper reports of today's guilty verdict later. So no sleep for me tonight, I imagine. Let's just finish the trial first, shall we? I am ballistics expert. I've seen many shootings. There's nothing I do not know about guns.
Hold it!
I thought you were just a tourist. Good day. I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please. There's no way he just a visiting tourist. So you're a ballistics expert. Who knew? I have much experience with guns. Ah. I've lived through many, how do you say, extreme and violent, bath of them, no blood of, extreme violent bloodbaths, perhaps. Those extreme violent bloodbaths. English is very difficult tongue. Considering the sort of people you associate with, I'm surprised you still have a tongue. Anyway, if you have questions about bullets and guns, you ask me. There is nothing I do not know, no mystery I cannot solve. He's very confident in his knowledge of guns, that's for sure. But, if possible, please, only in Russian language. He's not very confident in his knowledge of English, though, is he? No, still, we should bear in mind, he's our man if there's a mystery about guns or bullets. Van ZX has managed to convince everyone. When you have to eliminate the impossible, he said, but he hasn't. If we're going to fight back, we need more material. And we have to fight back. We have to turn this trial around again. Okay,
Hold it!
let's ask him about, Mr. Shom's surgeon is on the jury. I've experienced some coincidences recently, but this is just ridiculous. I'm as surprised as anyone. But there's no question Mr. Shomes was shot. Well, that's what the police told me when they brought him in. How bad were his injuries, doctor? He was in a bad way. He lost a huge amount of blood, you know. And I suspect he was shot at quite close range, too. Because his skin was badly burnt around the point of entry. Burnt. When someone's burnt like that, it's most likely they were shot at point-blank range. As I said, I flipped the fellow over and examined his back, but there was no signs of an exit wound. Which is why I thought I'd better locate the lug and pop it out. And yet you said you found no bullet inside the patient. That's strange. Well, I wouldn't have done, would I? Because it's in the wall of the pawnbrokers. But how did it get there? I need someone to solve this mystery before it drives me to insanity. If only there was some expert in ballistics who could help, even if he looked extremely untrustworthy. So we have a disappearing bullet on our hands.
Hold it!
Let's ask him then. I thought you were just a... Okay, wait. Okay, wait. We can put them up against each other, here. Let's, Okay, let's skip this here. We've seen this. Let's see if we can pit them against each other here. Hang on. We've seen this before.
Objection.
These two statements clearly contradict the idea that I do is pit jurors against each other. Oh, a ballistics expert. Pitting. Pit. On the night in question, Mr. Sholmes was shot by one of the Skulkin brothers. But since there was no sign of an exit wound on his back, we must assume the bullet didn't pass through him. However, no bullet was found lodged in Mr. Sholmes' body either. Furthermore, a bullet was found lodged in the wall of the shop where Mr. Sholmes was shot. Juror number 6. Hello, my name is Villain. Pleased to meet you. This apparent contradiction of facts that is so clearly troubling juror number 4. Are you able to explain the mystery? I have seen very similar situation in Motherland. It was night, there was a blizzard. I was running away along mountain road in freezing cold. Golly. The snow was piling high on both sides of the road. It was very narrow and dangerous. My pursuers had hunting rifles and they were on dog sleds. Mental note, don't ask too many questions. I was shot from behind and I fell down in snow. And this situation was very similar to what I hear today from Doctor. They could not find bullet in my body. And no sign of, how do you say, exit wound. Then where did the bullet go? Bullet never hit me. Well, if it never hit you, why did you fall down? It might have been a ricochet. Bullet hit frozen wall of ice very close to my side. What? One small piece, very sharp, broke away from lump of ice and pierced my body. It made deep wound that looked just like bullet wound. So it was a ricochet. It was the ice that hit him at, at supersonic speeds too. Because a bullet hits something and ricochets, it could act technically, I mean, I guess it could cause something else to go flying at him, depending on the angle it gets hit from. Good gracious. Of course, piece of ice quickly melted inside me. And that is solution to mystery of disappearing bullet. But there was no ice here. But that doesn't answer the question at all. The shooting happened in a pawnbroker's shop. Not some snowy mountain road in another country. Just an idea, but we might not be looking at exactly the same scenario here. Runo, where exactly was Hurley shot again? Well, according to the report, in his stomach. Sort of around this area, I think. Well, that's precisely where he always wears a little pouch on his belt. A pouch? Actually, I might have noticed something like that. Yes, a pouch. It's where he keeps the 3 glass vials of very dangerous chemicals that he uses in his investigation. Oh no, and so the chemicals got shot and they burnt him, and did the chemicals melt the bullet? Is that what happened? What? Really? Doctor, where's the pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing? Well, the fellow had nothing like that in his person when he arrived at the hospital as far as I remember. If I may. Lord Van Ziex? While I realize it is forbidden for the prosecution to interject during a summation examination, I should inform the defense that I have the pouch in question in the antechamber outside the courtroom. Sorry. As I understand it, when the police arrived on the scene and found Mr. Sholmes injured, they removed the pouch in order to assess the wound. Ah, thank goodness. I thought I was getting forgetful for a moment. Since then, it has been in my safekeeping along with all other evidence related to the case. And why was this not brought up? I can personally vouch for the fact that it has not been touched since the incident occurred. Well, let's submit it as evidence now. While extremely unconventional during a summation examination, I must demand that the prosecution present this item on question with all speed. Bring forth Mr. Herlock Sholmes' pouch. I see. So this is the pouch worn by Mr. Sholmes on the night in question. Look at that. One of the vials is broken and the leather around it is scorched black. Well, I can't really see it right now. My camera is blocking it. It's almost as if the file exploded. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks... Yeah, one of them is missing. So, one of the chemicals that he had in there, it was like an acidy chemical, I'm guessing, and it burnt. It exploded, and so it burnt the bullet? Is that what happened? It destroyed the bullet. So that night, the bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun struck Mr. Sholmes' pouch. And it was that glass vial exploding that caused the fellow's injury. This bullet did not penetrate victim, but was deflected into wall of shop. A delightful, complex aroma. Well, it would appear one mystery has been solved at least. Though it has no bearing on the truth of this case. Can you stop drinking in court? You can't do that. The bungling and burgling brothers shot the detective, and the accused shot the pawnbroker. The pertinent facts of the case remain unaltered. I don't know about that. But at least the mystery is solved. I can sleep easy tonight. Thank you, young man. Thank you very, very much. Glad I could help. Due to its bearing on the conundrum just solved, the court will sequester this scruffy pouch as evidence. Hurley's pouch isn't scruffy. The pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing around his waist at the time of the shooting. One of the glass files is smashed, and there are scorch marks around it. Now, the summation examination. It would appear the defense is somewhat struggling to alter opinion. Please, my lord. A little more time. After all, that's a new piece of evidence. It could be a valuable clue, and you can't afford to overlook anything here, Ryunosuke. There's still a way to turn this around. Somehow, I'm sure of it. This is the pouch. Look at that. The file has been smashed into pieces. Presumably, this is where the bullet struck. As soon as the bullet hit the chemical in that file, there would have been a really big explosion. A big explosion. Well, Hurley's potions and chemicals are amazingly useful for the investigation work he does, but they're also quite tricky to handle, safely at least. They're very dangerous. Oh. I'm sure that when this file broke, the chemical inside would have ignited. So that's the burn. Note to self, always walk on the right-hand side of Sholmes in future. The left is the danger zone. It's really scorched badly just here. Oh, that strap is broken, look. This must be where the bullet hit then. Let me see. Oh, wait. What is that? Oh! Look, it's the bullet. The bullet is here. What the? Iris, look. Behind where the broken file was. It's the third bullet. That's the Skulkin brothers' bullet. But then, what about the bullet in the wall? Whose bullet is that? What a stroke of luck that it hit this pouch. This amazing discovery. What this means is, there were 3 bullets fired at Windibanks that night. We found exactly what the juror was talking about. The third bullet. It's time to press the juror again, I think. A projectile we discovered lodged in Mr. Sholmes' pouch. It caused one of the files to explode, injuring Mr. Sholmes. Really good that we examined that. Something must have pierced it somehow to have left that hole behind. Yes, it looks like that way. Mr. Sholmes and his pouch both took a beating, didn't they? This is the bullet that was fired from the Skulkin brothers' gun in the night in the incident. Yes, so it turns out it never actually entered Hurley's body at all. Thanks to the thick leather of that pouch he was wearing, it saved him. Heh heh, Hurley's lucky like that. Well, considering what he had to go through in hospital, I wonder how lucky he really was. Oh dear, poor Hurley.
Hold it!
Let's press them again. It's the number of bullets that has you convinced. Only 2 bullets were fired, and the 2 guns that fired them have been examined by the police. When the parlor maid asked me how many are invited for dinner, okay. We've seen this. Well, that's logical, I suppose. Although, sometimes after dining... Okay, wait, we've seen this before. I can prove it. Allow me to show you, then, the third bullet.
Take that!
Here it is. We discovered it just now. Yes, on the night in question in Windibank's pawnbrokery, another bullet was fired. Yeah, here we go. What is this new trickery? You, Nipponese, conjurer. Oh, he's pissed. Where did you find that bullet? It was lodged inside Mr. Sholmes' pouch. What? This pouch was removed from around Mr. Sholmes' waist before he was taken to the hospital. And since then, it has been, touched by no one. Do you mean to say the shot fired by the Skulkin brothers that night? Yes, as your lordship has surmised, it hit this pouch. But that makes no sense whatsoever. We already know the whereabouts of the bullet fired at Mr. Sholmes. It's clearly visible in this photographic print. That's a different bullet, and somebody else's blood. Ah. 2 guns from the scene have already been submitted into the court record as evidence. Does that mean there's a third gun? Yes, that of Mr. Windibank and that belonging to the Skulkin brothers. An examination of both guns revealed that only a single bullet had been fired from each. Ah. That means there's a third gun. But that must mean... That's right. We now know that on the night in question, 3 bullets were fired. However, only 2 bullets were fired from guns recovered from the crime scene. And until that incontrovertible inconsistency is somewhat explained, we cannot and must not pass judgment. Ugh. We're on the right track now. What happened at that pawn shop at 1 a.m.? While the summation examination remains incomplete, the court has been presented with new facts. Facts that would appear to shake the very foundations upon which the case against the defendant has been built. As it is my prerogative in this situation, I hereby temporarily suspend the summation examination. By Jupiter. What? Bailiff, bring the witnesses back to the stand at once. Witnesses. Governor, were you listening to proceedings while the defense carried out the summation examination? We was, Governor, we was. Perhaps we can dispense with a tedious preamble. Simply answer this one question. A third bullet has been identified at the scene of the crime. What do you make of that? Make of it, Gov? I don't make nothing of it. I can't help it, Is it one of yours? There's another person involved. Remember when they said he earlier? There's another person involved. Gore blimey, Gov. Gore blimey, not a chance. In that case, did you have an accomplice? What? Never. The Skulkin brothers work alone. It's just the 2 of us. That's our trademark. How soon we forget poor Sulky. Only 2 of the bullets from the crime scene originated from the firearms we have in evidence. The third bullet was fired from another gun. Where is it? Lummy. That's an Eid Scratcher. Counsel for the defense. Yes. I should like to hear your thoughts regarding these new developments. The third bullet, and the mysterious missing firearm from whence it came. Thinking back over all the testimony we've heard, and all the evidence we've seen, I think I'm starting to form a picture of what really happened that night. Here's what I think happened. Okay, here's my theory on what I think happened. We're gonna see if I'm right on this. These guys, these 2 brothers, tried to break into the shop. They had another person with them, a third person. Gina was in the shop with Mr. Windibank. We don't know why, but she said she was there for the manuscript. But her interaction with Mr. Windibank, we have no idea what that was. Now, she was with him in the storeroom in the back, and we have a picture of Gina holding the gun, which is kind of strange. But then at the same time there's a bullet in the calendar. There's a bullet in the calendar There's a second bullet that was in Mr. Sholmes's, like, chemical, like, little pouch thing. And then there's the third bullet that's inside Mr. Windibank. Now, hang on a second. Let me see. There are signs of a single discharge. But is it proof that this was the gun that Mr. Windibank was shot with? Is that what the autopsy report confirms? Because the autopsy let me see. It doesn't say what gun hit him. Okay. Here's what I think happened. I think the two brothers with the third accomplice came into the store, confronted Mr. Windibank. Mr. Windibank got angry there was intruders in the store, threw the shorter brother over the counter. One of the brothers pulled out the gun. The taller brother pulled out the gun. Mr. Windibank pulled out his gun, shot at them, and must have hit the third person. That's what I think happened. The third person must have gotten shot. It might have been the Eggert guy. So he got shot. The bullet went through him, hit the calendar. The calendar was had all the blood on it. And then what happened was Mr. Windibank retreated inside the running back to the room, and then the third person with their gun shot Mr. Windibank in the back. And then what happened was Gina panicked. She locked the door and she grabbed the gun. Because Gina didn't know how much ammo was in the gun. She didn't know that there was one bullet, so she grabbed the gun to try to protect herself. That's at least my theory on what I think happened. We're gonna see if I'm correct on this. But, that third gun, I think, is what killed Mr. Windibank. My lord, I think it's clear what this third bullet tells us about the Skulkin brothers. They had a secret accomplice. That's the green blood. The green blood is also on the disc. I think that's Eggert's blood. They had a secret accomplice. On that night at Windibank's pawnbrokery, the brothers must have been working with a third man. The witnesses are clearly doing their best to cover up the existence of this accomplice. Because it's somebody powerful, like that Eggert guy. We don't even know that's Eggert's name. But the evidence all points to the fact there was someone else present. Someone else carrying a gun. Remember, Eggert pulled a gun on us, in the earlier episodes.
Objection!
An accomplice, you say? Pigs will. These protracted proceedings have already forced us to endure 2 summation examinations. Yet in all that time, there has not been a murmur of a third man, if this apparently wraith-like being exists. He got shot. The third man got shot. He got hit, and so he fled the scene. That's the bullet. That's the blood that's on the calendar. He got shot, and so he left the scene, and the 2 Skulkin brothers were still there. He took the gun with him, so he left before the police even arrived, before the police were notified. That's why the police never caught the third guy. The court must be shown hard evidence. Without it, this fantasy will be crushed. Ah. The prosecution demands answers on 2 counts. Firstly, proof, evidence, that this accomplice was ever at the scene of the crime. And secondly, the identity of this spurious character. It's that Eggert guy. The Skulkin brothers are lying. I know that. But how can I ascertain the identity of that person they're hiding? Well, counsel, I'm supposed to prove the existence of this accomplice and reveal the person's identity even. In response to prosecution's demand, my lord, the defense is... It's him. This is the guy. I'm confident in that. This is the guy that got shot. A young English gentleman with an aloof and high-handed manner. He appeared at Windibank's pawnbroker accusing Gina of stealing his redemption ticket. He came in with the, he came in with those 2 guys. That's what I'm confident of. He had them as muscle. That's what I think. It's Benedict. I'm ready to present answers. The defense is ready. I believe I can provide all the answers the prosecution demands. So, my Nipponese friend, despite the swimming eyes, you seem to think you have something to say. This promises to be interesting. I have to push forward now. There's no other option. I need to use every single piece of evidence available to me if I will make a difference. In that case, counsel, I would ask you to present the evidence without delay. On the night in question, in the moments leading up to the death of the victim, what proof have you that there was a third intruder present at the scene? I'm gonna say the third bullet. That's some,
Take that!
The evidence is this. Oh wait, what? You perplex me, counsel, by looking so pleased with yourself despite the quite displeasing answer. Ah. My learned friend has a knack for it, my lord. Oh no, I got 2 chances left now. Oh, great. The kind of genius I could really do without time to think again. Let's save here. What proof that there was a third intruder? Oh wait, it could be the blood. The blood. Wait. Yeah, unknown blood. We don't know who this blood belongs to. It's the blood. Please be right.
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in this portfolio. By Jove, the portfolio again, is it? Do you expect the court to rifle through your papers itself? Be more specific. I will. You claim one of those blood samples proves the presence of this third intruder. Well, which one is it? I mean, it's both of these, really, but it's this one, because he got shot at the scene.
Take that!
What am I looking at here? There appears to be some green paint or such like around the bullet hole in the middle of the calendar. That's a blood stain, my lord. A blood stain. Green blood? Curious, even for you. Is the court to understand that the intruder was some unhuman creature? It's something developed by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. By the great detective. New invention, stop. Not yet appeared in story, stop. If it's this, you see. It doesn't have a name yet, though. This fogger sprays a chemical that reacts with the different elements in people's blood to change its color. Different elements of people's blood. Yes, everyone's blood is slightly different, you see, because it's made up of different elements. So by seeing what color it changes to, you can tell in a flash whose blood it is. Oh, that brings a whole extra dimension, looking at blood. Talk of blood in courtroom, stop. Very exciting, stop. As an example, this one shows the blood of the victim, Mr. Windibank. Ah, a striking blue. Yes, so you see, the green color of this blood stain on the calendar shows that someone else was shot in the main part of the shop. Now hold fire there, young man. Could be from some unrelated incident, couldn't it? No, it's not unrelated. The date showing on the calendar is the date on which Mr. Windibank was killed. By golly. Therefore, we can assume that whoever was shot on the same day. Then whose blood is it? Well, the Skulkin brothers in the stand don't appear to be suffering from any gunshot injuries. Which means it must be the blood of somebody else. So I was right, the third intruder got shot.
Objection!
Whose identity the court is still waiting to hear. You can't delay this any longer, my learned friend. Who is this alleged third intruder? Okay, let's look at everyone we got. Only person I can think of is Benedict. He's the only person that I can think of. Let's see.
Take that!
The man's name is Eggert Benedict. Eggert Benedict. Who on earth are you talking about, counsel? He paid a visit to Windibank's pawnbroker in the afternoon before the incident took place, and we have Inspector Gregson right there. He's a witness. He saw Benedict. I don't think that's his real name, but Inspector Gregson did see him. When the accused attempted to deceive the pawnbroker into releasing this article into her possession. That's right. The man identified by the defense, Mr. Eggert Benedict. then attempted to take the article from the defendant by force. Broker. Yes, sir. Remember, he pulled out a gun. He had his own gun. That might be the gun. I believe this filthy pickpocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes, the article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once. Now that's a lie. What are you trying to pull? Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel, and needless to say... any music box discs, too. Inspector Gregson was there at the time, and can attest to what happened. Wow, I am predicting a lot of what Ryu is saying right now, so Inspector Gregson was there. In the end, it was the inspector himself who took the disc. Can you corroborate this account, Inspector? Yes, my lord. That's more or less what happened. And in the interest of being thorough, I asked Windibank for a print showing the fellow. Taken from one of his red-handed recorders, gubbiness. Yes, that's him talking to Mr. Windibank that morning. And you claim this man is the brother's accomplice. Well, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Never seen the geezer before in me life. On me life, on me life, never seen him. Liars. Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, it appears our witnesses disagree with the assertion. I'm sure your lordship recalls my learned Nipponese friend's actual assertion, which was that he could prove the identity of the alleged accomplice. Yes, and I can. Then show us the evidence. I agree. We must see proof that the clean-cut gentleman in the photograph is the filthy criminal you say he is. This is the last piece of evidence. I've had a feeling that something has been missing in this trial from the very start. But now, I'm going to drag it kicking and screaming into the courtroom. Are you ready to present your answer to the court then, counsel? Yes, my lord. The defense will present the evidence now. Proof that the man pictured in his photographic print was in fact the person struck by the third bullet. How do we prove that it was him that was struck by the third bullet? I mean, the disc has Eggert's blood on it, but... hang on. Can we do anything with this right now? I've opened this before, but... I can't compare pictures on this right now. How do I prove that it was Eggert at the scene here? Is it... is there something I'm not seeing here? What am I not seeing here? I don't know if it's the music box disc, because the music box disc has his blood on it. Oh, wait a second. Wait. I'm trying to remember right now. I'm remembering right now how he got the blood on the disc. It was because he got scratched with it. Right, I remember when, Gina took the disc from him, and as she ripped it from his hands, he got scratched by that, and so he bled on the disc. I think this is it. Let's see.
Take that!
As I mentioned before, on the afternoon of the day in question, the defendant deceitfully admitted, to reclaim this disc from Windibanks, which is when the aforementioned Egbert Benedict appeared on the scene, I believe. This man then attempted to purloin the article from the defense's possession, no? That's correct, my lord. I myself was present at the time. It was following this that a minor incident occurred. But of course, sir, here is the disc for you. And then Gina took it from him. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style. Wait a minute. That disc is mine. Ah, what do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal. And he was bleeding on the disc. Being a music box disc, it has countless small but sharp metal protrusions over its surface. Those protrusions caused Mr. Benedict's finger to bleed. And the resulting smear of blood is still visible on the disc now. Goodness, a bloodstain is it? My assistant and I have just analyzed the bloodstain here in this very courtroom, using my trusty fogger gun. Yes, and we added the results to this portfolio. I say, it's green. It's exactly the same color as the blood around the calendar. The evidence is conclusive. The man calling himself Mr. Egbert Benedict, who was in Windibanks earlier in the day, is the accomplice, who was present at the scene of the crime that same night. So there was someone else. Look at those two brothers now, they're sweating buckets. Ooh, who are you talking about? My lord, it is the opinion of the defense that Mr. Egbert Benedict should be summoned to the courtroom to testify. It would certainly seem that we can ill afford to ignore this gentleman's apparent presence.
Objection!
This has gone on long enough now. This flagrant ignorance of mechanics of law. Well, what are you talking about ignorance? We basically proved that he was there. Herlock Sholmes, you say? Yes, I've heard the name. The protagonist in a series of short stories for the vulgar classes, a god of detection or some such. And now you employ chemical substances devised by this fantastical persona in the highest court in the land. Do you expect us to take you seriously? The samples made by this plaything are not fit to be called evidence. That's what I was worried about this. That they would say you did your own evidence. So the bloodstain turned to a shade of green. What of it? Here's to you successfully proving that no other blood in the world would turn the same color. Ah, well. And pray, do not even think of suggesting that we should take Mr. Sholmes' word for it. Ugh. Is he right? Is Mr. Sholmes' concoction a load of rubbish? I don't know. I mean, he is a great detective. What are you talking about? We can't let him get away with that. I knew it would come to this. Of course, Mr. Sholmes' invention isn't going to be recognized by any official body. But what other choice did I have? I'm just remembering what Father Christmas over there said before. Did she just call him Santa Claus? About how he was temporarily suspending the summation examination? Ah. In other words, the examination isn't over yet, is it? Good grief. What did you just say, young girl? And in a summation examination, the decision as to whether or not the trial continues is in the hands of the 6 jurors, isn't it? So the way I see it, it doesn't matter what certain other people think of Hurley's invention. At least, not for now. Yes, she's right. Young lady, you have quite a devious mind. It really just comes down to one thing. Whether these ladies and gentlemen of the jury are convinced by what you say, Runo. Is that about right, would you say? Or did I misunderstand something? Unbelievable. Mr. Shom's partner is a force to be reckoned with. Iris Wilson, sharpshooter. After that shrewd presses of the situation from an entirely unexpected source. It must be acknowledged that the previous summation examination has yet to reach its conclusion. This is absurd. No, it's not. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court now looks to you for your final leanings in this matter. As proud citizens of Her Majesty's Britain, I'm sure you will come to fair and just conclusions. So then, state your final decisions in turn, please.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
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 Not guilty.
Two call guilty and 4 call not guilty. Such is the outcome of the summation examination.
Objection.
My lord, with all due respect, this is an outrage. The prosecution refuses to accept this decision. Well, that's not for you to decide. On what grounds? If these jurors are persuaded by some half-baked concoction devised by a pretender to real police work, then they are too ignorant to be trusted with the judgment of anyone's guilt. That's not how it works. I'm sorry, Lord Van Ziex, but the outcome of the summation examination cannot be ignored. This trial will continue. Nevertheless, we find ourselves in a rather awkward situation. The defense has very reasonably requested the subpoena of a new witness. But sadly, I fear that will be impossible. What? The name the gentleman gave for himself, Edgar Benedict, is quite clearly false. I knew it. I don't believe it. Just when I managed to prove the man was there that night. Could I say something? Who was that, please? Who spoke? It was me, my lord. Juror number 5. What have you to say, madame? If possible. Inspector. Me, ma'am? I wonder if you might show the photographic print to me again. The one in which the gentleman is shown. Alright, yes. This one, you mean. Of Mr. Benedict. So she's a communications expert, and she probably recognizes him. It's because Benedict is a spy. He's a spy. He's leaking information to other, he's leaking information to hostile, powers. And the thing is, I'll tell you something. Edgar Benedict might actually be a reference to Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold is the most famous American traitor. I know this is in Britain, so it's it's in another country, but Benedict Arnold was an American general that was in charge of West Point, and during the Revolutionary War, he tried to collaborate with the British to sell out West Point to the British, but his plan was foiled. And so that's what Edgar Benedict might be a reference to. So he might be a spy. He might be like the spy master here that's leaking information. Yes, there's no doubt in my mind. Juror number 5, you don't mean to say. You know this man? Yes, I know him. What? No. Good gracious. Order, order, order. Juror number 5, how on earth? I'm a communications officer, stop. As we can clearly see, the gentleman in the photograph is, stop. Also a communications officer, stop. He works in my office, stop. So that disc probably has information, information on Britain that other countries want to get. A very, very talented operator, in fact, stop. He should be in the communication station now, stop. Tapping away on the telegraph, stop. This doesn't seem right somehow. I can't put my finger on why, but it doesn't feel right. I suppose we all imagined the accomplice would be some sort of hardened criminal. It's a bit unexpected to find out he has a respectable job by day, whatever he gets up to at night. Yes, I suppose that's it. I suppose that's why I felt something was wrong. If the gentleman is at London's communication station, we should be able to subpoena him within the hour. Lord Van Ziex, if you please. Yes, my lord. Make the necessary arrangements, with all haste, as your lordship bids. Yeah, bring this guy into trial. I want to hear what this guy has to say. The court will recess for 1 hour. When the new witness arrives, we shall reconvene to hear the gentleman's testimony. Inspector Gregson. Yes, my lord. I should like to hear from you specifically about events at the pawnbroker on the day in question. Come to my chambers during the recess. Yes, sir, my lord. That disc has some type of specific correspondence on it. That's what I think. It's something important because remember the newspaper, what it says here, that government secrets being leaked to foreign agencies. It has some type of government secrets on it. He's at communications. It actually makes perfect sense. It does. To be continued. Wow, this trial is really heating up. This is getting crazy. This is turning out from some type of some murder in like a pawn shop at 1 a.m. to some kind of grand conspiracy. Like this is like a big conspiracy here that's happening. But thank you guys for watching. This is my favorite case so far. I'm having a lot of fun with this case. Can be a bit challenging at times. You know, we only had 2 tries left, but it is a really fun case, I have to admit. So thank you guys for watching. I'll have the next part up for you guys as soon as I can. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.